Dorothy.
They'll get you, Dorothy.
The flood happened on the 4th of July morning, the 5th of July morning. And we had just had a holiday of the 4th of July, of course. It was on Monday. We had had a whole weekend of just holidays, you see, through Wednesday the 4th. And then the flood happened on the morning of the 5th. What time was it? About?
Well, it started around midnight, honey.
Started around midnight. And we lived in a house on Cary Avenue. Daddy and Mother had just built a new home and had been in it 6 weeks, wasn't it? 6 weeks. And when daylight came, that house was out across Cary Avenue. Across the street, it had lodged against a house across the street. A big old storeroom. And we had lived in a little cottage the door owned. And that cottage was down about a half a block, had lodged against a tree. And everything we had was gone. Daddy, the whole downstairs was gone. The furniture was all ruined. Alpha, your daddy Alfie, had bought a bedroom suit in preparations, just he was paying for it so that he'd have that bedroom suit when he got married. And it was ruined. Mildred was down there. And then after that, they decided they were going to get married because the bedroom suit was gone. And they had to start over from scratch anyway, so they got married in August.
She wouldn't have told us that. She wouldn't have told us that.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. She's talking fast.
I know, she does that.
I can't even think that fast. But anyway, just everything was gone out of the first floors down there. The water came a roll, or as high as the house, wasn't it? Not quite as high as the house, but it would roll cars when it hit them. It rolled cars. And the next morning, after the sunrise came up, there was holes as big as, you could sink bushel baskets in, holes that the water had just absolutely gushed, just poured out. And there were just holes dug in the ground. And, it was a terrible thing. It was just terrible. But Daddy's store, of course, it was all gone. Kurt and Emma lived across the railroad track. And that night they thought that the water tower had bursted. The C&O water tower? No, it wasn't.
No, they thought the little dam up there burst.
I know that, but Kurt and Emma thought that water tank had bursted.
Well, they might have.
When they realized that there was water in their house.
It didn't hold over 3 or 4,000 gallons. It wouldn't wash anything away.
And it was for the trains. There, the water tank was, and it was right by their house, and they just thought that water tank had burst and was flooding their house, but it was that water, and the creek wasn't even up. That water rolled down from Haldeman. They had a washout in Haldeman, and the whistles went to blowing, and just I'm jumping from back to forward, but it was awful. There was whistles blowing all over town. railroad whistles, train whistles, everything that could blow. Sirens was going, and we walked. But anyway, it was a terrible thing. And Mary Ellen, as I say, was just 5 months old. And we went up to Main Street. Marvin carried her, her eyes, big eyes shining and looking around. It was steady lightning. The lightning, there wasn't, it was just steady. It was, and thunder was just rolling all the time. So we went to Main Street, and the water followed us to Main Street. Mother and Daddy waked us and got us out of the cottage. And when we were just past Jesse Johnson's barber shop, and Marvin was looking back, and he said, he didn't say, Dorothy, there goes our house. He said, Dora, there goes your cottage. The water pushed it across the road, and it lodged half a block down. And then by the time we got to Main Street, Daddy's house was out across the street, across Cary Avenue. And just everything was gone the next morning. You had no clothes. Your clothes were hanging in the water. You know, we all had downstairs rooms. Mother and Daddy had roomers, I think, upstairs. Probably Harvey or Clyde Hutchison. Some of them. Mother usually kept roomers upstairs. Anyway.
They had just moved in the house and don't think they had anyone.
They didn't have. Well, might have. But then Marvin's first cousin came out, he and his wife, and got Mary Evelyn and me, because it was just too much for me to be there with, I was nursing Mary Evelyn, and they said that wouldn't be good for her. So I went back with them, and they bought Mary Evelyn clothes and me some things too. But I stayed a week out there. By the time I got back, it was getting cleared up. But they said that they had to have the typhoid shots. I missed that. Everybody had to have typhoid shots, though, that was in it. And I don't know, it was just a terrible thing.
It was
27, was it? It says 25 here, but I believe there was more found. But anyway, I didn't see any of it. Well, why don't you tell her some of it that happened while... Talk a little louder now.
You want the funny things or the facts?
Well, all of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of it, but anyway, you get a little things, baby. But anyway, I'll tell you some of the funny things that happened. There's a dry cleaning place down on Fairbanks Avenue, along John Will Holbrook. And Ralph Miller was started in the place, the water washed in clear through the front door, out the back door. He swung across the street, went up a power light pole, and stayed up there till the water went down. That was one of the funny things. And old man Riley Bolden was up, the old hotel building was down on Railroad Street at that time, about a 3-story building. He was up at the top of that, so he jumps out of that into the water, swims out to a big sycamore tree, goes up the sycamore tree, and sits up around Oliver Hill all night long. He would have been perfectly safe in the old hotel building, didn't move. But anyway, Dorothy was telling me about the house washing off. We had just stepped off the porch on Cary Avenue into the street. Water's up to my knees. Okay, this little alley there Cary Avenue. That alley, you get a little slope, a little upgrade. Well, when we got just above the alley on a little slope, the water was up to my waist. I was holding Mary Evelyn up over above my shoulders to keep her out of the water. And I was water up above my waist, really. And then we began to get out of it. So, like Dorothy told me, we went up to Main Street. She went up to Mary Evelyn over to Cecil Fraley's, lived there on Main Street. And that's where she spent the rest of the night. The rest of it just wandered around in the rain, in the shelter, whatever. And she told you about the lightning. And you could see to go anywhere you wanted to go by the lightning flash. You didn't need flashlight. It was continuous. And it was all the way around. It just wasn't just east and west, north and south. It was all the way around. So I guess that's the worst part of it. But they were 27 drowned. They had 25 of the people. They had a mass funeral for 25 of them. 2 of them they'd sent to Morgan County for their funeral. So you'll have to read the paper. Well, you know where the old library is? The library is at now. There used to be an old building there. It was a tin building. The outside of it was tin. And there was a rather large room downstairs, and there was some rooms, living room quarters upstairs. Well, some way or other, anyway, they were in this building. There was about a 1.5 ton truck parked in there with a stake body. Went up about 3 or 4 foot. Okay, the next morning after the water went down, we kept hearing of old cow bawling. And we hunted around, we found this old cow. She was in this building, up in the bed of the truck. How she got in there, nobody ever knows. She was in this old back of this, up in the back of the truck. In the bed of that truck, it had the stake bed all the way around. She was in there. Perfectly good shape, except she was hungry. So, got her out of there. I don't remember, she blown somebody up the creek. She had floated down the creek for several miles. That's one of the things. Now, those things are funny. To me, they were funny. How that old cow could last through all that flood, logs, cross ties, along with everything else in that creek. She didn't have a scratch.
Oh, really?
And over on the depot porch, there was dead hogs.
Oh, gosh.
Everything else. Some cattle, but mostly hogs, where they drowned and forced in there. This old cow, boy, she was perfect as hell. But that's
4th of July weekend, and they had animals and snakes. They had big snakes, and the people who were in the trees, that had lodged in the trees as that water went down, gushed down the street, it just rolled people, and they clung to anything that they could get a hold of, and they were in trees. And one woman said she fought snakes all night long off of that tree, out of that tree. They were trying to come in there, and she fought those snakes all night long, she said. But whenever daybreak came, the snakes were gone. I mean, they were on down the river, on down the creek. But you think, you go to thinking about these things, and it just different stories comes back to you, you know, like that.
You'll think of
That
things
you've
all
heard.
night, probably.
Oh, Lord. Yes, you've started something.